Now, we're here for what you're really here for. And one of the things that I love about being able to help put on this event is I get to know all of the speakers. I get to hear their ideas and their passions and why they want to take a chance at standing on a scary stage in front of so many people. But each person I learn so much from that I can't wait to learn even more from. And you're going to get to learn first from Anthony Radzykewycz. Anthony is Gateway faculty from Gateway Community College, but not only has he been Gateway faculty, but he started there as a student. He tutored there, already interested in teaching and technology, and now he is a faculty at Gateway sharing his knowledge with other students. He has a passion for technology, and he's a bit of an innovator and a risk taker. I've found that he likes to try new things in his classrooms, and sometimes they work fabulously, and sometimes they don't. And that's a lesson that we all can learn from Anthony, because taking risks with our students and taking risks in our classrooms really helps us be able to continue to innovate and try new things, and our students are usually really excited just to try something new. Anthony has been really innovative in gaming in the classroom, and you're going to learn about his latest innovation project in just seconds. So please join me in welcoming Anthony Radzykewycz to the stage. You got it.
Testing, check. Hey, we're live. As you heard, I'm Anthony Radzykewycz, and today I'm going to share with you my experiences of implementing virtual reality in the classroom. But before we get started, I just wanted to share a little bit of my experience and my background before jumping into this project. So today, I'm speaking to you as the Linux program lead instructor at Gateway Community College. I have over 7 years of IT experience, and 3 of those years I was working full-time as the audiovisual maintenance technician and photographer for Gateway. During that time, I had the wonderful opportunity of being the educational media developer, where I helped other faculty members create educational videos for their students. So, before you may have read the title of this talk, there's a lot of discussion about what is virtual reality. Is it Minecraft? Is it The Sims? Is it Second Life? Well, this technology has really evolved and it's advanced, and our definition of what we consider virtual reality has changed. Now, we would have to consider virtual reality to be fully immersive, as though you are there, as opposed to sitting in front of a screen. The other thing that's very important is you have to have a degree of choice, which brings us to our third requirement, which is the easiest choice that you can really make, and that would be to manipulate the environment with the body. Now, you might be thinking I'm speaking of the controllers. You might think that, oh, we have to move across this environment, but a simple turn is a choice of where you can see. Some of you might be thinking, well, hold on, that sounds like 2002 with Tom Cruise, right? Maybe. But it's been 14 years since the release of that film. I think we're getting a little close to actually making that science fiction a reality. Now, how complex is it, and what is its price point? Well, there's a lot of different avenues of virtual reality implementation that you can go down. I chose 3 here. These are not by any means the only choices, but these are some of the most popular that I have researched. The one that's really the forerunner, the highest quality you can get, is known as a GoPro cluster. That's 6 GoPro cameras with 1 mount. And if you have the money lying around, it's about $5,000, and it is very, very complex since you're working with 6 separate cameras. You have to do the stitching, you have to use the applications, you have to really know your salt in order to get this to work. Then there's some other solutions that I found that were a little closer to my price point. The 360 Fly is a single camera solution, and they have 2 different resolutions, one in HD, which will run you about $300, and another one that's in 4K, which will run you about $500. And this was a minimally complex You can link it up with your phone, single press button recording, and then you are flying away. Then there's also a competitor to them that's around the same price point, which is the Ricoh Theta S. This is a 2-camera solution on a single body to give you that minimal complexity with a single press button recording and, again, with the mobile linking. So this is what I used for my project. I used a 360 Fly. I used a lapel mic with my phone. I used a generic tripod and 4 applications, 2 that shipped and 2 Adobe products. So my approach is that I recorded a live class session, and I wanted that to simulate the student sitting in a chair attending the class that I was giving. This required that I had my students sign talent release forms so that I was able to share it with all of you and also use it in the future classes. But this is a static recording that is set in one shot of time. The setup for this took about 15 minutes before the class, 15 minutes after the class to tear down, and about 5 to 10 minutes at the class break for the camera manipulation. So really, for every single lecture that I recorded in virtual reality, it was an additional 35 to 40 minutes per session. Now, that's all fine, and I'd like to show you what it is that I'm actually talking about and what my VR classroom really looks like. So here's my virtual reality classroom, and something you might notice is that's not exactly facing the instructor. What kind of class is this? Here's a lesson learned. Test your camera before you deploy it, right? We're working with a 360 virtual space. So being as how you're working with a camera that literally can see everything, you should probably find out what the camera thinks is facing forward. But here's the cool thing about virtual reality. We're using a browser right now. If the viewer wanted to click, drag, and move the screen, they can look wherever in the room they want. Now, we can go ahead and pause this and freeze that out. But if you were using your mobile device, you would play the video on your mobile device, and with a simple turn, tilt, you'd be able to manipulate the image as well. Again, going to that simplest decision of where do you want to look. If you're wearing a headset, there are applications in your phone that you can use, put it on, and then you would just tilt your head to view that. Now, there were some known issues with my implementation. The first one's kind of a biggie. It's not going to be interactive when viewed later. This is, again, a static recording shot in a single space, like a single time, right? So that does not enable students to participate who are watching the virtual reality classroom in discussion with their peers. They cannot ask me questions if they have a question arise while watching this media. The other thing is I wrote an article about 5 best practices for creating educational videos when I was the educational media developer. So this pretty much went against all of them. The first one is direction and planning. I'm talking about recording a live lecture, not I'm going to discuss this and I'm going to be straight to the point. Students ask questions, and I love to go down those roads of dialogue. However, there's no direction in planning on what they're going to ask. There's no direction in planning in necessarily what is going to be covered, which leads us to our next item, video length. Video length, as I wrote in the article, was not to exceed 10 minutes of your educational video. Now, some of you are like, oh my gosh, that's so short. And it is, I get it. However, research is now supporting the idea that that time is even getting shorter, where you shouldn't exceed 7 minutes for an educational video. So again, direction and planning, very concise, very quick. The other thing is video quality. Now, this is a reason why I bought the 4K camera, and this is something that you need to be aware of if you are looking to get into virtual reality. The advertised resolution that they are selling you is the camera resolution. I used a single camera solution, which means that when I take my picture and I enter into my virtual realm, that resolution is strongly decreased. So even though I was recording in a 4K definition, what you saw there was actually HD. Then proper lighting. Now, 35 to 40 additional minutes per lecture was quite a strain on me, and I wasn't going to worry about evening out the light for my purpose, so I just threw that one out. It's fine. And then the last one would be good sound quality, which you're actually going to see that I fixed in a virtual tour video that I created.
And welcome to
So now you can
SCC
actually hear me.
building.
They didn't
I'm gonna
change
show
the
you around, but
volume
before I do,
on the
this is our
house,
front desk.
but now you
This
can
is
hear me,
the
you can
place
hear
where
the
you can
surroundings,
booking,
and this
where
is
you
when
can
I was
schedule
using that
appointments, you
lapel
can
mic
speak to an advisor.
again
But come on,
with
I'm
my
gonna show you our
phone.
programs and some of our
Now, we can go ahead and pause the video. The idea behind this was to simulate a tour experience as this person walking with the tour guide. So they would have the option to look at the rooms, down the halls, be able to see exactly where they're going, and it would be accessible so long as they had access to the videos. If we could go back to the slides. Now, student response was, when I proposed the idea, there was excitement, but there was a little bit of embarrassment, because you have to remember, not everybody likes to be recorded. However, I explained what my purpose was, why I wanted to do it, what I wanted to find out, and there was an overall understanding with the class. However, I did upload that very first video of the virtual reality classrooms to see how many students would take the bite. Out of the 15 I had in that group, 1 watched. Now, that video is only half of the lecture. It's 55 minutes long. He did not watch the 55 minutes. He reported that he definitely did not watch more than 3 minutes before he put it down and moved on. So I kind of sat back and I'm like, okay, that's good to know. He was looking at it for the novelty and not for the content. Now, I don't really blame this student for looking at it for purely the novelty. And the biggest reason is I had difficulties. Oh boy, I'll tell you what, I had some difficulties. You saw one of them. Test your product before you do it, right? Camera wasn't facing front, so I needed to figure out what is front according to this. And then it also added an obstacle in the classroom since I had the tripod and then the students in the front had to kind of meander around it. The student audio was not heard. So you heard the microphones on the camera in that first recording, or rather you did not hear anybody. And with the lapel mic and the solution for that, the only audio that would be heard is from me. So those questions that were asked, the purpose of, hey, what did they ask and how did this discussion get started? What is the discussion amongst your peers? Unfortunately was lost in the feed that I took. I also had to use the phone in conjunction, as I mentioned before, with the lapel mic. Now, you remember how I told you, oh yeah, this is minimally complex. You push the button, you get recording. That led to this. Long editing times, oh my word. I'm going to go further into this in just a little bit, but boy, I tell you what, you have to get your phone, the camera, sync it up, and then you have to do the post-production afterwards to make sure that it's right. And the biggest one, the camera simply would overheat. And unfortunately, this was my strongest difficulty that I had, and it rendered my entire semester worth of recording as unusable at this time. So, yeah. Yeah, 35, 40 minutes a session for every session. But it's all right, we're moving there, we're getting there. The editing and post-production. This tour video that I showed you where I fixed the audio quality, 7 minutes, 27 seconds. Not a long video, I stayed under my 10, right? However, this took about an hour to prepare and shoot. I had never given a tour of our building before, so I had to get a guide to give me the tour so that I could give it, right? And then we had to work out the logistics of the camera and exactly where we're going, and then I had to get the microphone, and then let's get cooking. We took this in 1 take. We didn't take 2 takes, but it took us about an hour for that. Here's the kicker. To put the audio on that video and post-produce exactly what you saw, it took 9 hours. It took 3 hours for me to drop the feed into the video editor that I was using. I had to render that. Then I took the audio, dropped it on that video, 3 hours to render that. I was able to cut the beginning and the end, that's all I did, and then I had to render it a 3rd time. So 9 hours of editing time is what it took, and that's not including the time that I did upload it to YouTube. So I didn't worry about recording that. But 7.5 minutes, 10 hours. All right. Now, Some of you might be saying, well, there's other implementations of virtual reality that you didn't do. Maybe you could do that. And I'll tell you what I did is not my vision for the technology. My vision would be to live stream these VR classrooms, to give an opportunity for a global presence, a global interaction where a student can log in and feel as though they are seated in a physical classroom. This way it can open the dialogue and they can have an opportunity to ask questions. And yes, these things do exist right now. However, the implementers of the technology doing what my vision is, they have a team. They have people on separate computers who are proctoring for them to get all the questions back and forth and be able to open that dialogue path. I, unfortunately, as an adjunct, do not have a team to do this, so I'm a one-man show with my classroom. And that leads us to the lessons learned that I have. Boy, I'll tell you what, even with my background in IT and audiovisual, creating a virtual reality classroom was really a difficult task. I thought I was choosing the minimally complex operation, and that quickly became quite the undertaking. Since I did have so many problems, I did call the company, the manufacturer of the camera that I was using or am using, and I quickly realized if you have as many problems and you contact them as many times as I did, you actually get a ticket into the door to their engineering department. So it's really neat that I get to talk with their engineering department, tell them what my challenges are, and I can mold where I want to see the technology go to make my vision a easy and accessible reality. Now, the student body also seemed to be excited about the idea. They're like, oh my gosh, this is new and this is cool. But they looked like they wanted to see the novelty, not the content. And with this, the pressing question for the majority of the people that I discuss this with is, should I do this now? What I'm going to advise is at this time, no. It's really hard. But that's not to say you shouldn't do it at all. I am going to continue my efforts. I am going to try to make my vision the de facto and one press button as I want to see. And that's looking to be an ETA about 6 months to a year. So really, they're competitive and they are moving through this. But I wouldn't pick one up right now and decide, hey, I'm going to go through this undertaking until the technology has matured a bit. With all of that, I want to thank you for your time, and I do hope after that year of waiting, that I will have the opportunity, wherever I'm at, to be able to sit in your classrooms virtually. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.